The start of the Fourth Age and the departure of the Ringbearers. The Fourth Age of Middle-earth began after the destruction of the One Ring and the fall of Sauron. At this time, the Age of Elves and Magic faded, and the Age of Men began. The event marking the transition was the departure of the Ringbearers. Frodo Baggins, Bilbo Baggins, Gandalf, Olorine, Elrond, and Galadriel all sailed from the Grey Havens to the Undying Lands of Aman. They were followed later by Samwise Gamgee, who had briefly carried the ring. Their departure removed many of the last great powers of the Elder Days from Middle-earth. The Hobbits of the Fourth Age. Samwise Gamgee married Rosie Cotton and had 13 children, including Eleanor, Frodo, Rose, Merry, Pippin, Goldilocks, and Tolman. He became mayor of the Shire for 7 terms. With Galadriel's soil, he planted the Shire and grew a Malorn tree at the site of the old party tree. He was honored with the title Samwise the Gardener. After Rosie's death, he sailed west at age 102 to be reunited with Frodo. Meriadoc Brandybuck became Master of Buckland, contributed writings to the Red Book, and was known as Merry the Magnificent. Peregrine Took became the Thane of the Shire, and maintained records about the outside world. Both Merry and Pippin eventually left the Shire, traveled to Rohan and then Gondor, and died there. Their bodies were buried beside Aragorn and Gondor, a rare honor for hobbits. Aragorn extended the Shire's boundaries and formally protected it as an independent, self-governed land. No big folk were allowed to enter. The Elves' departure and the fading of enchantment. The destruction of the One Ring caused the 3 Elven rings to lose their power. Without them, Elven realms like Lothlorien and Rivendell began to fade. Galadriel had foreseen this outcome, knowing that even success would mean the diminishing of their realms. Over the next century, most elves left Middle-earth. By year 120 of the Fourth Age, Círdan, Celeborn, and the last of the High Elves sailed west. Some elves remained in secluded areas like the woodland realm of the distant east, but they eventually faded and vanished from history. The Dwarves and the reclamation of old lands. With Sauron gone and the orc population greatly reduced, the Dwarves thrived. Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, continued to prosper under King Thorin III's Stoneheim. Gimli led a colony to the glittering caves behind Helm's Deep, known for its unmatched beauty. Later in the Fourth Age, Durin the Seventh, likely a descendant of Thorin III, reclaimed Moria, Khazad-dûm. It remained in dwarven hands until the end of their time. The dwarves delved deeper, crafted wonders, and remained in Middle-earth longer than the elves, eventually fading into legend. Legolas and the end of Elven-Dwarven enmity. Legolas remained in Middle-earth longer than most elves, leading a group of Ithilien to help restore it. His enduring friendship with Gimli helped end the ancient enmity between elves and dwarves. After Aragorn's death, Legolas built a ship and sailed to Valinor, bringing Gimli with him. Gimli was the only dwarf ever allowed to make the journey west, a grace possibly granted by Galadriel herself. The reign of Aragorn and the Reunited Kingdom. After Sauron's fall, Aragorn was crowned King Elisar Telcontar, ruler of the Reunited Kingdom, restoring the northern kingdom of Arnor and uniting it with Gondor. He reigned for 122 years and brought a lasting peace to the west of Middle-earth. Minas Tirith was rebuilt with the aid of dwarves and some elves. Aragorn re-established alliances with Rohan and Dale, extended the boundaries of the Shire, and declared it a protected land where no outsiders could enter without permission. He elevated Faramir, former steward of Gondor, to Prince of Ithilien and restored the region as a garden realm. Faramir ruled it justly with Éowyn at his side. Aragorn also set apart the Duradin Forest as a protected land and granted freedom to its Wose's inhabitants. Orcs that survived the fall of Mordor were hunted and destroyed without mercy. Aragorn even offered parts of Mordor, specifically Nirn, to the freed slaves of Sauron, giving them a homeland. The fate of Rohan and its royal house. Éomer succeeded Theoden as king of Rohan and ruled during the early years of the Fourth Age. He maintained strong ties with Gondor through alliance and friendship. Éowyn, now the Lady of Ithilien, turned from war to healing and lived a peaceful life with Faramir. Rohan remained an independent realm, faithful to the House of Eorl and committed to the alliance forged in the War of the Ring. Merry and Pippin visited Éomer in his later years and remained close to Rohan until his death. Rohan continued to play an important role in the stability of the West and retained its distinct identity and martial traditions. The Ents and the Unfound Entwives. The Ents never found the Entwives. Though they reclaimed Isengard and renamed it the Watchwood, their numbers dwindled. Treebeard and the remaining Ents continued to shepherd the forests, but over time, they grew more tree-like, slowing further and eventually fading into legend. Without the Entwives or new generations, their future was one of inevitable decline. The Ents, once protectors of the ancient forests, became mythic figures remembered in tales more than in life. The decline of magical creatures and the end of Sauron's forces. The fall of Sauron caused the collapse of his power over creatures such as orcs, trolls, and fell beasts. Many died in the chaos following the destruction of the One Ring. Some, driven mad, killed each other, or fled into dark corners of the world. Those that remained were hunted down by Aragorn's forces. Dragons and other magical beasts, already dwindling by the end of the Third Age, continued to disappear during the Fourth. Tolkien states that magic itself waned, meaning such beings eventually passed from the world, leaving behind only mortal races. Mordor and the eastern and southern lands. Mordor was broken and left uninhabited by the remnants of Sauron's army. Aragorn granted the region of Norn to the former slaves of Mordor, allowing them to rebuild as a free people. Though little is recorded of the deep south, Harad, and east, Rhûn, it is implied that these lands, long corrupted by the Shadow, began to recover slowly. Tolkien suggests that while the Blue Wizards may have failed in curbing the spread of dark cults in the east, the destruction of Sauron severed the long chain of Morgoth's influence in those lands. The decline of the remaining races and the dominion of men. With the Elves departed, the Dwarves fading, and magical beings disappearing, Middle-earth entered the dominion of men. This was the era Tolkien envisioned as gradually resembling our own world, a time of mortal governance without divine intervention or magic. The men of Gondor, Arnor, Rohan, Dale, and other realms became the stewards of history, land, and law. Aragorn's son, Eldarion, succeeded him after his death in the year 120 of the Fourth Age. Eldarion inherited a united kingdom and a relatively peaceful realm. Prophecy suggests that the line of Elisar ruled for many generations. With each passing era, memory of the elder days grew dimmer, and the miraculous became the mythical. The final preservation of Middle-earth's history. The Red Book of Westmarch, begun by Bilbo and expanded by Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, became the chief record of the War of the Ring and the world that preceded it. After Sam's departure to the west, the book was preserved by his daughter Elenor and passed through generations. It became the basis for later records kept in Gondor, including the Book of the Kings and the tale of Aragorn and Arwen, ensuring the deeds of the past would not be lost, even as their memory faded. The future ages and the end of Tolkien's narrative. Tolkien did not write in detail about events beyond the Fourth Age. He made passing references to future ages in his letters and notes, indicating that Morgoth would one day return and bring about Dagor Daggorath, the final battle between good and evil. But these were only glimpses. In practical terms, the story of Middle-earth ends with the fading of the Elves, the decline of other races, and the enduring rule of men. Tolkien emphasized that Middle-earth is not a separate fantasy world, but a mythic version of our own Earth at an earlier stage of imagination. He likened it to Norse myths about Midgard, from which the term Middle-earth is derived. By the end of the Fourth Age, the world transitions away from myth into the history and memory that form the roots of our own legends. If you want to understand how the Elves shaped the fate of Middle-earth, from their awakening at Cuiviénen to their final departure across the sea, watch Elves of Middle-earth explained in detail next.